Hi, this is Teddy, and you're listening to Candace Valenzuela on Two Broads Talking Politics, part of the Demcast Podcast Network. Bye.
Are you listening?
Hey everybody, it's Sophie from Two Broads Talking Politics, and I am here with my co-host, Kelly. Hey Kelly.
Hey Sophie.
Joining us today is Candace Valenzuela. She is a candidate for Texas's 24th Congressional District, and she is also a member of the Carrollton-Farmers Branch Independent School District Board of Trustees. Welcome.
Thank you. And that was a mouthful, and I'm very impressed that you got that right. A lot of people don't.
I'm not very good at talking, but I practice. So why don't you start out just by introducing yourself to our listeners and telling us a little bit about what you do on the Board of Trustees and sort of how you came to be running for Congress.
I can do that. And those two things are very, very much related. So let me tell you about why I ended up running for school board, and that'll lead you to that. Growing up, I struggled with homelessness. My mom, my little brother, and I ended up bouncing around from place to place. But when my mom kind of figured some stuff out, she realized that school kind of gave us some stability. So even as we were living in different locations, I mean, we lived in a homeless shelter, a kiddie pool outside of a gas station, relatives' couches. She tried to keep us on the same cohort of school. And I think that's why I ended up being the first in my family to go to college. Ended up getting a full ride to the college I went to, Claremont-McKenna College, and it transformed, I think, the trajectory of what I was capable of doing with my life. And so I ended up graduating, going into education, and I was doing a lot of auxiliary positions in education. So what I mean is I worked with SAP kids, I worked with private schools, I worked with charter schools, I worked in all kinds of areas, and I ended up getting a great survey of folks. And I felt like the best return on an investment for our kids was public education. So that was something I brought with me when I ended up moving back to Texas after college. My husband, by the way, encouraged this. He is a Texan himself. And he said, like, by law, as a Texan, we have to move back to Texas to have Texan babies. And I was just like, that's sound reasoning to another Texan. So, okay. And so we ended up moving back here. And, I was looking at our school district, and a couple of things were happening. One, Trump had just gotten elected. That was one part of it. But I'd had my first son. So I was looking at our school district, and there were lots of things going well with it, but there were also some major issues. First and foremost, most of the parents at this point are going to be millennials and Gen X parents, which is frightening, but here we are. And we had issues like broken websites and attributing a lack of parental participation to laziness as opposed to the fact that many of us were juggling multiple jobs or longer hours. But the other part was that it was a majority-minority school district. And we only had one African-American and one Latino on the board, and they were both of the first of their respective ethnicities, and it hadn't been on for very long. And there were issues that came about as a result. So I ended up running for the school board. Long story short, I strapped my 18-month-old baby onto my back, or 14, 15-month-old baby onto my back, and knocked on doors with him. And I ended up defeating an 18-year incumbent who had the backing of the Republican establishment. And it's been incredible to be able to serve children in the capacity I have as a school board trustee. I've been able to do these great things like we've got STEM academies in our elementary schools, fine arts academies in our elementary schools. We've raised teacher pay. I've helped to raise the wages for food service staff, for the janitorial staff of the district. We've beefed up career and technology education. I can go on and on. It's crazy because I hadn't been there very long, but I've been able to push forward a lot of things. But ultimately, I wasn't able to keep kids in their seats. And I wasn't able to keep kids in their seats because the cost of living was far outpacing wages for their parents. I have apartments that are very close to my house, and I have some friends that live in them, and luckily they don't have kids. But I know a lot about people just nearby, and it suffers a lot because as rent goes up a little bit each month, it's $10, $15, $25. It's like the death of a thousand cuts for a lot of these families that don't have a lot to begin with. And they find themselves bouncing around a lot like I did. And in fact, it's worse. So I think at my worst, I was in 2 different elementary schools in the first grade. For some of these kids, they might be in 3 or 4 schools, and it's not continuous schooling. So they might find themselves living in a car while their parents try to figure out where they're going to go next, and they lose all of those days of school, and they lose all of that stability, and it's very traumatic. It is very disorienting. I can speak to that. And it ruins outcomes for schools and for families and for entire communities. We lose so much. That's why I'm running for Congress, because those opportunities that were there for me, like, again, public education, housing that we were able to get through HUD, the assistance we got through food stamps, programs like those are under attack by this administration. And it's important that somebody who's in touch with a lot of these families that has experienced the urgency of not having food or not knowing where you're going to sleep that night goes to Congress so that it's not something that can be bargained away.
So this district, the Texas 24th, looks to me like the kind of district that we're seeing flip all over the country, that this is a kind of suburban district. It's rated an R+9 by Cook, but it was very close in the 2018 election. Can you tell us some about the district and what you're seeing and why you think it's flippable this time?
It does look a lot like those districts that have flipped lately, and Cook recently created a toss-up, even though it is R+9. And that's because even though the candidate who ran last time got within 3 points, Beto O'Rourke, running for Senate, won this district. And he primarily did it in this specific district by exciting a lot more young voters, a lot more Latino voters. And so when we're looking at this district, and again, this district is also relatively young itself, it's well educated, and its median age is about 34. Demographically, my family and I are a great fit. We're younger. I have 2 sons. One of them is 4. The other one just turned 1 about a week ago. And as a school board trustee here, I represent a fifth of this congressional district already. And beyond that, I've worked really hard to help develop some of the democratic infrastructure in the area because it has been so important to my kids to make sure that we get appropriate funding and we get the leeway we have in order to serve the community.
Can you tell us about some of the issues that you're hearing about from people as you're beginning your campaign in the district?
Sure. Well, a lot of parents, I don't know if you know about this or expect this, but Mom Demand Action has really, really taken off in Texas. Lots of women who may not have felt like they needed to voice anything in politics or maybe didn't feel like they had the right cause have jumped up here, primarily because they can see that this isn't a gun violence. Easy access to guns kills children here, kills children in their schools, kills children at churches, I don't even need to go on. I can go on forever. So lots of parents have been really afraid that if they send their second grader, their third grader off to elementary school, he or she may not come back. People are concerned with healthcare. They're concerned with being able to cover deductibles, being able to even think about paying for their monthly rates. I know plenty of families that are uninsured because there's no way they can keep up. Even if both parents are working and are making what you might consider decent wages, these parents are opting out of having regular health insurance, and that's terrifying to me. And generally, we just talk a lot about, again, affordability of housing, of life. When we've seen wages stagnant for the lower and the middle class, but prices just keep going up and up and up. It's getting harder and harder to own property. Gen X and millennial parents and families are not seeing a path in that direction. Many of us have had kids a lot later as a result. There's all of these effects that aren't necessarily felt acutely by your average member of Congress. It typically is older and has come up in an economy that's a little bit more favorable to that whole bootstrapping narrative. You go to school is, if not affordable, you were able to pay it back in a reasonable amount of time or at a reasonable rate. and you're able to buy a starter home. We don't have starter homes or starter health insurance. We just have expenses, and we're trying really hard to make it work.
So you mentioned you have very young kids, so obviously that's part of the reason that you want to be running for Congress, and that we need young mothers of young kids in Congress. But talk some too about what that means, what it looks like, sort of day to day campaigning with young kids. We want to encourage more women to be doing this, but while being realistic about what that entails and how you can find support to do that.
I consider myself incredibly lucky to be able to do the work that I'm doing right now. And campaigning with young kids, whether you're a man or a woman, depends largely on whether you have an incredible mother-in-law. I don't think we would have Barack Obama without Marian Robertson. Having a really good support network has made something like this possible. Having folks understanding about this, and I've made an effort to hire folks that, just kind of knew from the get-go, this is what my campaign looks like. So one of the very first questions I asked when hiring is, are you going to be comfortable around breastfeeding? Are you going to be comfortable around pumping? Because it's going to be a regular part of this process. And it's logistically tricky, I've got to tell you. Most people aren't used to planning around having to pump during a commute or to carry a baby through a fundraising trip, myself included. I traveled with the babies before. I've worked around pumping with my first son. I learned a lot of things so that I was able to do it in advanced mode with a baby right now. But if you're going to run for Congress or if you're going to run for office, you need to make sure that you have buy-in, if not from your spouse, if that's not someone who's available to help you out. Your close friends or your close family members are going to be a really big part of it. There's no way around that. As much as I can take my kids with me to things, I do, but sometimes it's just not for them. And trying to fit them into a political event is not the best thing for their development. even if it's great to have them, my younger son, especially as before he was starting to eat solid food, he was just always on me. I'm an attachment parent. If you can figure that out pretty quickly from seeing me. I have all of the different baby wearing things, carriers. In fact, with my first son, I was a part of this baby wearing mamas group. It was a huge network of women in Dallas that were very passionate about wearing babies. And as soon as Trump got elected, that group completely dispersed. And I came to find out many of those women just went straight into activism. They went straight into trying to make this world a better place for their kids. And I find it fascinating. We are a voting bloc. We are a wellspring of candidates, because we are very, very invested in our children, and we're invested in their peers, and we're invested in having a world after this presidency. And it's been really awesome to see mamas step up. Just a couple more things. Some of the mamas that have come before me in terms of running for office in 2018, at least larger office, has made this process a lot easier. So I'm a Vote Mama endorsed candidate, and Vote Mama is a group that endorses women who have school-age children, or in my case, younger, who want to run for Congress, who want to run for higher office. And it was started by Luba Gretchen Shirley. She's out of New York, and she ran last cycle, and she had to deal with a lot of the challenges that running with young kids brings. She was actually the reason that we're able to now use campaign finance funds to pay for care. So initially, when she had the lawsuit, they just said, well, if you wouldn't ordinarily have paid for childcare and then have to do it as a result of the campaign, then you can now use campaign funds. And then MJ Hager, she ran in Texas last cycle and now is running for Senate. She brought that further. And so as of not too long ago, we can just use campaign funds to pay for childcare because you're not making any personal money running for office more often than not. So you lose that money to pay for childcare, and now we can just use campaign finance, that's obviously it's got to be very well documented and everything needs to be above board, but to help with childcare. And that's helped us to defray some of the costs of caring for an infant during some of those hours be running around or crawling around with his friends.
Yeah, and how wonderful would it be to have people in Congress who do know what it's like to plan around pumping and breastfeeding? That seems like a very valuable viewpoint to have in Congress.
I would hope so, and it's incredible because a lot of the staff in Congress right now are rethinking what that work-life balance looks like. And so I think Nancy Pelosi made it so that in certain areas of Congress, you can actually go and there are pumping rooms, which is just insane to me. You can go and pump in various places if you need to, if you're working for a member of Congress or if you are a member of Congress. By the time I get there, it won't be a logistical concern. My son will be 2, which is just crazy to think about because when we started, he was a few weeks old. But I'm happy to know that anyone working for me or working with me won't have to choose to not nurse or breastfeed if that's something they want to do.
So Texas has a super early primary, and this is a very crowded Democratic field. So tell us what the next 2 months basically looks like for you on the ground and ways that our listeners can help.
It's going to be a lot of work. Right now, I am reaching out to folks in my district, talking to them about why it's important to vote in this primary and in this election. We're knocking on doors. We have to pay for things, obviously. So, campaign literature, things that we're handing out. I have a staff on the ground. They have healthcare and other things that they're paying for. So we're working on having the kind of campaign you would want to see, grassroots oriented. I don't take any corporate PAC money. And so I'm dependent on a lot of small dollar donors that have paid me. There are people throughout the state and throughout this country who are chipping in $3 a month or whatever they can come up with to help me to get my message out to folks. So that's basically it. I'm just knocking on doors and asking for help.
And if people want to find out more about your candidacy, how can they do that?
You can just go to my website at Candace424.com. That's CandaceFor24.com. And if you can, go ahead and check out my video. It's actually quite good. And if you are compelled to do so, please donate. Again, you're running a grassroots campaign, and we are at the mercy of and very grateful for regular folks who have regular concerns and can't afford to give thousands upon thousands of dollars.
Excellent. We'll put links up to your website and social media on our website when we post the episode. Is there anything else that you wanted to make sure we talk about today?
So I want to just say that a lot of folks aren't aware of this, but in Texas, we can win. Like I said, Beto O'Rourke last cycle won the district. We're capable of winning it again. We have a poll out, and it was a 2-parter. First part, they just asked, who are you voting for? And I was reading the field. But in the second part, they introduced my story. And what ended up happening was my lead then jumped to 20% over the next person. So it is a big primary field, but as somebody who lives in this district, has worked with folks in this district, has gotten the most local endorsements of any candidate and the most national endorsements of any candidate, there's a great path to victory here for me in North Texas. And actually, so much of what happens in this state is going to be dependent upon this district. We have the most potential for growth. We can possibly, one, flip the Texas State House. 6 of the 9 seats are embedded within this congressional district to flip the Texas State House, which is important ahead of redistricting. But I think the pathway to flipping Texas as a state goes through North Texas. So whatever you contribute here to this campaign on the ground with grassroots supporters is going to help people up ballot as well. So we can win and we can help others win. So again, anything you can do in this campaign will help a lot.
All right. Thank you so much, Candace, for joining us. And thank you for being one of the moms running for Congress. I love it. We definitely need moms in Congress. And, I know it's a challenge, but I applaud you for taking that on.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great talking to you, Sophy and Kelly.
Thank you for listening to Two Broads Talking Politics, part of the Dimcast Podcast Network. Our theme song is called Are You Listening? Off of the album Elephant Shaped Trees by the band Immunuri, and we're using it with permission of the band. Our logo and other original artwork is by Matthew Weflin and was created for use by this podcast. You can contact us at twobroadstalkingpolitics@gmail.com or on Twitter or Facebook at Two Broads Talk. You can find all of our episodes at twobroadstalkingpolitics.com or anywhere podcasts are found.